Yo, what is going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 best long-term sports card investments that I believe are at super solid price points to get in 2025 and to hold for the long term. I believe there's great returns that can be seen if you're able to pick the right players. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over some specific cards and players that I think have super strong long-term potential. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Alright guys, so the first card that we have on our list is none other than Michael Jordan's 1985 star, not his original star that you're probably familiar with, but he has many different parallels of this card that I think are super great investments. One of the ones that really catches my eye is his 1985 star number 1 card. But he has a couple different variations. You know, you've got the number 2 as well from 1985 star. And these cards are at such great price points in my personal opinion. First and foremost, I know there's many variations and that might scare a lot of people. But, you know, in general, the pop counts on these cards are super, super low. You know, for example, a PSA 9 is the highest, or BGS 9.5 is technically the highest grade. You only have 3 BGS 9.5s and you only have 2 PSA 9s. Those are the highest grades of the cards. And then the rest, you know, are lower, and all the pop counts are still, you know, besides the BGS 8.5, they're all pretty much under 100 or around the 100 area. And so, for example, you know, if you get them in PSA grades, you got a PSA 8's only a pop 12. And if you look at what Michael Jordan's, of course, his main star, if you guys are unaware, his main star rookie card has absolutely taken off in price this year. PSA recently started grading them, and they've just absolutely soared in price. PSA 7s are at around 55,000. You know, you obviously see the highest graded ones, like the 8s, even an 8, you know, did 240K recently. So we saw this card absolutely take off. We're seeing Michael Jordan's star rookie cards becoming so much more popular than they were before PSA started grading them. And I think that this is going to trickle down to his 85 stars. Of course, this is technically his second year of star rookies. But this is still, you know, before Jordan's Fleer was printed. So it's still, you know, Michael Jordan's rookie card technically, you could call it. I don't know what the hobby exactly classifies this card as. It's technically a second year star. But I just think this card, given how popular the 84 star has become, the very iconic one, I think, you know, it's bound to trickle down. We saw what happened in 2021 when, you know, the 87 Fleer, the 88 Fleer became super popular. But this is still his rookie card. And if the 84 star continues to get out of the reach of investors' hands because of the price points and the fact that they hardly come up for sale, I think a lot of the demand is going to trickle down to these cards in the long term. You can get some of these cards, you know, I know for a lot of people who are on stricter budgets, you know, I'd say a couple thousand you can get, you know, a solid Michael Jordan 85 star in a good grade. You probably want to go 8 and up for these. PSA is highly preferred for these just because their grading standards, because they started grading them more recently, their grading standards are a little bit stricter. So people prefer to buy these in PSA grades. If you look, for example, even if you're going for BGS, you can still get an 8 around that 2,000 price point for a lot of these cards, like the number 2. I would try to go for the red borders, just because the red borders are the iconic from 84 and the one that most people are familiar with. I try to stick away from the bigger ones if you can. I still think the bigger ones are good investments. I just don't see their upside being as high as the others. But at the same time, the buy-in points for a lot of these are a lot cheaper. So you can get kind of a lower grade for under the $1,000 mark for the 85 stars. I just think considering this is a Jordan rookie card, iconic set, stars becoming popular, PSA is grading them, there's a lot of demand around them. I just think these are going to really pan out in the long term. I see a lot of these cards becoming very, very expensive in the long term. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into the number 2 card in my list. It's going to be just LeBron autos in general. You know I made a video about this, you know, a couple weeks back, but LeBron autos, I think people don't realize how rare they are compared to his counterparts, such as Steph Curry or Kevin Durant or other players in his generation. So LeBron, he signed an exclusive deal, and he's now only signing with Topps, but pretty much all of his cards were signed between 2003 and 2008. Vast majority of his pro uniform cards, besides, obviously his high school cards, you're going to see a vast majority of his pro uniform cards are between 2003 and 2008. So that 5-year window, and they're pretty low pop for the most part. Most of LeBron's autos are pretty low pop. You got guys like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, who in their playing days have signed, every single year for so many different sets. And their autos, I think, are good. Some of them are good investments, but I think a lot of them have a lot more room to go down, as we're already seeing a lot of their cards really go down in price in terms of their lower end autos because there's so many of them hitting the market. But for LeBron, there's such a scarcity for his playing days Cavalier autos. And in general his autos, but most of them are going to be Cavaliers because he wasn't signing when he was on the Heat, and for vast majority of his Lakers career. I think a lot of these cards are going to be super low pop. You're not really going to be able to find them in the future. If you look at what happened with Jordan autos, especially his playing day autos, you can't really even find many of them. But the ones that you can are extremely expensive. His playing day autos, like the floor on them is like $9,000 to $10,000, and that's for his not as desired autos. But you really cannot find Michael Jordan playing day autos for reasonable price points. And I think LeBron in the future, when you look at how cheap his are comparatively, if you just look at some of these cards, obviously, this is a higher end upper deck patch auto, but you can see how expensive Michael Jordan's playing day autos can get. And keep in mind, this is, of course, not even Michael Jordan's rookie card, 12th year. He wasn't signing pretty much until then. But, of course, we're not comparing apples to apples here, but it just kind of gives people a sense of, LeBron's future in terms of his auto market and how rare his autos are comparatively to his counterparts and the price points that they're at. You can get one for a couple grand. Even a patch auto you can get for, $4 or $5 grand max. I think in the long term that really plays out. So I'm personally a buyer in LeBron's autos, especially rookie autos if you can find them. Now next up on our list, we're going to go with none other than Wayne Gretzky. So Wayne Gretzky, of course, what I think is the most special with him is in pretty much all sports you can have that debate of who is the GOAT. For basketball, you see a lot of people going after the top 10. You got the Kareems, you got the LeBrons, you got the Kobes, you got the MJs. A lot of demand is kind of spread out across a lot of players. For hockey, Wayne Gretzky is the undisputed GOAT. I don't think there's another player that you can say was even in the same boat as Wayne Gretzky. And so I think as the hockey market continues to grow, as sports cards continue to grow more internationally, which they're doing with shows, and the marketing's gotten more international, and I think as Canada gets more involved in sports cards and hockey cards become more popular, Wayne Gretzky's the guy. And he only has a couple of his top cards, which of course is the Topps and the OPC. And so this card right here, of course, the higher end grades are more expensive. If you go for a PSA 8, 4 or 5 grand, if you want to get an 8 or above, you're going to, be paying at least a couple grand. But if you go for the lower end grades, you can get some under $1,000. And I think in the long term, given the population is fairly low, he's the undisputed GOAT. He doesn't have many cards that are great investable rookie cards, and Canada and internationals expanding for sports cards. I think these cards are cards that see great long-term gains. I think this is going to be one of the most iconic cards of all time. There are only 2 PSA 10s for the Topps, and I believe for the OPC it's around 2 or 3 as well. If you can get a higher end grade of this, I would tuck that away for the long term. But even if you can't, and you got to go with the lower end grade, I think the floor is going to continue to rise for Gretzky rookies. And of course, you don't like to talk like this, but after his days are over, once he's passed away, I think there's going to be a different level of demand for his cards. I think we see that with athletes across and just figures in general. After their days is when we see them really just become those all-time legends that we look at and want to remember, and to remember them, we buy their cards. So I really like Gretzky as an investment. Now, next up on our list, we're going to go with none other than Stephen Curry's rookie cards. Now, Stephen Curry's rookie cards, the thing I like most about them is that he does not have many investable rookie cards. In 2009, there was really only Upper Deck, Topps Chrome, Bowman. There weren't all the parallels there are now. And on top of that, his Topps and his Topps Chrome, super rare. His Topps Chrome, for example, one of his most investable rookie cards, numbered to 999. In high grades, you're not going to see many of them. So you just don't see many higher end / in general, Steph Curry rookie cards comparatively to other players. If you look at Wemby, of course, you're going to see Wemby's cards in the last month. There's probably been more graded Wemby cards in the last month. This is obviously not a fact because, I haven't looked up, but I would say that there are probably more Wemby cards graded in the last month than Steph Curry cards of all time, at least Steph Curry rookie cards of all time. I could say that very confidently. So you're just not going to see many Steph Curry rookie cards out there. I think for the long term, the higher end ones, the price points are going to be so high, and then he doesn't have many other lower end ones. So it's like, where do investors go for Steph Curry cards in the long term? It's going to be interesting. I think a lot of that demand is going to go towards the Upper Deck because it's a cheaper price point. A lot of it's going to go towards, the Bowman because it's numbered, the Topps Chromes because it's numbered, the Topps base just because it's, solid card. But I think in general, Steph Curry's cards, super low pop, fan favorite, one of the most collectible players of all time. 3-point king, the best 3-point shooter of all time, won 4 championships, finals MVP, he's got it all. First ever unanimous MVP. He's created such a fan base around him and such, fans are just in love with his game. He changed the whole game. I think his long-term demand is going to be up there, with the all-time greats, with the LeBrons, with the Jordans, just because of how much of an impact I feel like he's had on the game. I think there's the emotional side, when you watch Steph Curry, that is not there for a lot of players such as Kevin Durant. And so I think that's what we're seeing with Steph Curry. He reminds me a little bit of kind of like what Kobe Bryant's markets come to. It's a lot of higher-end collectors. The only difference is Kobe Bryant's market, he has so many rookie cards from 1996. There's 1,000,001 different cards, and the pop counts are insane. So if you look at Kobe Bryant's, Topps PSA 9, for example, this is just an example. Pop 20,000 for his Topps PSA 9. If you look at Steph Curry's Topps PSA 9, you'll see that it's not 20,000, it's 1,500. So less than 10%, around 7% of the pop of Kobe Bryant's Topps PSA 9. Just an example. And Kobe has a lot more cards. I think where Kobe's cards would be, if he had Steph Curry population numbers, they would be much higher because, the demand is there for Kobe, but he's got too many cards. And I think the demand will be there for Curry, and he doesn't have many cards, and his pop counts are not too high. So I think that's going to be the difference and why I see Steph Curry being so much better of a long-term investment than a lot of other players that are currently playing the game that you may be able to argue. Of course, you can say LeBron's been a better player than Curry. You can say, of course, Jordan's, of course, better than Curry. You can make the argument for Kobe, whatever you guys want to do with that. But I think the pop counts are so out of place between the all-time greats where you just don't see many Curry rookie cards. And when you look at other all-time greats, of course, like Kareem, of course, had lower pop counts. But if you look at how expensive his cards are, in higher-end grades, you're going to see that, an all-time great NBA player with a solid fan base. And Steph Curry, I would say, has a much bigger fan base than Kareem. But if you find those players that are all-time greats and have low pop counts, you're going to see great long-term gains, at least from my experience. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out.